It finally happened! Fat Shark finally released their first Shark Byte goggles, the Scout HD, and I've definitely got some opinions on them. This is a bit of a different kind of video. We just got the official news about these goggles being released, and I wanted to report on that news and give you a few of my opinions on these goggles. This is something we've all been waiting to see, and I thought you'd find the news interesting. I will say that I don't personally have a set of these goggles, so everything in this video is based on the news I've seen and a few conversations I've had online. So these are my impressions and opinions, but this isn't a review of the Scout HD. I'm going to start by giving you the specs of these goggles, and then we'll talk about a few interesting things that stood out to me and who I think these might be for. The Fat Shark Scout HD is priced at $250 US, and it's a box goggle design based on the existing Fat Shark Scout. It has a 3.5-inch 1080p screen with a 44-degree field of view, 2 external antenna connectors, and it has a Shark Byte receiver built in. It has most of the same ports you'd find on the existing Shark Byte receiver, including external power, the VTX firmware upgrade port, and a card slot for DVR and firmware upgrades. These goggles are listed on Get FPV right now, and as I record this, they're supposed to start shipping between August 13th and 20th. The goggles are listed as being a PVT, or production validation test, which means this is a bit of a pre-release or beta release. That might be cause to hold off, but Fat Shark did say that they personally checked each set of the goggles and their support is generally pretty good, so this really wouldn't concern me too much. So that's all pretty interesting, and I think you might have been surprised by a few things there. I know I was. First, the price of $250 is definitely cheaper than I was expecting. I was seeing people online expecting these to be in the $400 range or even higher, and I wasn't expecting anything below $300. At $250, it's the exact same price as the existing Shark Byte receiver module, which makes you wonder which one is the better deal. I think that's still an open question, but if I was buying my Shark Byte gear now instead of a few months ago, I would have given these goggles serious consideration, because you do get quite a bit of value for that money. The 1080p display in these goggles is a plus, and it raises some questions about where Shark Byte might be going. This is a very high resolution display for FPV goggles. There's almost no goggles out there with a resolution this high. It's an interesting choice by Fat Shark because Shark Byte currently only supports 720p video. Does this mean we might get future Shark Byte cameras that support 1080p? There's a lot of evidence to suggest yes, and I've heard here and there that the existing video transmitters might actually support that with a firmware update. So this is an encouraging sign, and it's great that the screen in the Scout HD is future-proof. It seems that these goggles might be pushing Shark Byte forward in other ways too. Because the receiver is built in, there's no external HDMI cable or power cable, which reduces some clutter on the goggles and eliminates a few points of failure. I've also heard that the goggles don't even use HDMI internally, which will reduce the latency even further. If this is true, it's great to see. It's a big step forward for Shark Byte, and it's another compelling aspect of the Scout HD. But there's one glaring omission in the Scout HD, and it's the lack of analog options. I know I'm not alone in saying that I was really hoping to see an analog video receiver built in, or at least a module bay to let a user add their own module. Unless we're missing something really major in the specs, there isn't even an AV in port to allow some kind of adapter to support analog. As far as we can see, it looks like these goggles are Shark Byte only. I'm a little worried about this, and I hope it doesn't cause the Scout HD to miss the mark. I've definitely seen a lot of users online saying they aren't interested in Shark Byte only goggles. I'm not exactly sure what my thoughts are yet, but it does make me start thinking about who the target customer for these goggles would be. You might think that these would be a good choice for someone completely new to FPV who doesn't have any goggles at all. That makes sense at first glance, but I think it's an unrealistic choice unless we suddenly see some new bind and fly Shark Byte drones on the market. A new pilot isn't going to want to do the soldering and other setup that's required to install Shark Byte right now just to get their first drone in the air. So I think that's going to be hard to recommend to a newbie until they can buy a Shark Byte drone ready to go. The other option is that it's for people who are already into FPV and have all the gear, but want to get into Shark Byte. Since these goggles are the same price as the Shark Byte receiver, it's basically no more expensive to get these instead. And if you do that, you get goggles that probably have a higher resolution screen than your current pair, as well as the other benefits such as a cleaner design and the lower latency. It's really not a bad idea. But on the other hand, I don't want to have to take 2 pairs of goggles with me every time I fly, and although I don't mind box goggles, I know a lot of people really don't like them. So overall, I'm not really sure where this leaves us. I think the Scout HD has a few things going for it, and I really like what it tells me about the future plans for Shark Byte. I do think it's a better deal than the existing Shark Byte receiver module. But I guess what worries me about it is that I'm not sure it will accelerate the adoption of Shark Byte the way I was hoping it might. It's not an obvious must-have just yet. I guess we'll have to wait for the reviews to find out how it is in practice. But I want to know what you think. Are you interested in the Scout HD goggles, or are you going to give these a pass? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.